After being summoned for an emergency surgery, Sean was shocked to find that the patient he had just saved was his mother, who had been missing for over 3 years. When she finally opened her eyes, Linda revealed the truth she had long kept hidden from him. Dr. Miller, the patient's blood pressure is. The intern quickly recited the stats for a woman in her 50s who had been rushed to the emergency room after her appendix had ruptured. They had called Sean to the hospital urgently, pulling him away from his new date because the on-call doctor was unresponsive. While many might consider appendicitis a minor issue, a ruptured appendix was a serious matter. Sean understood the risks of infection spreading throughout the body, which could turn life-threatening, so he sped to the hospital, pushing the limits of the speed limit. He had no time to ask for the patient's name or acknowledge the staff as the OR nurses dressed him, and they all got to work. The operation lasted several hours, and there were some tricky moments with a blood pressure drop, but they managed to take the organ out, clean as much as possible, and finish up. Dr. Miller, how do we know she won't get any infection? The intern asked. That's something you know, Lloyd, Sean stated jokingly. We cleaned the abdominal cavity, and the antibiotics will help, but we have to wait for now. Sorry. Thank you, sir, the intern replied sheepishly. Oh, what's the patient's name? He wondered as he watched some nurses prepping to take her to an ICU room. Sean had been turned to the medical waste bin while removing his scrubs, but his whole body turned quickly at mentioning her name. Are you sure? He asked, marching back to grab the patient's chart from his intern's hand. Yes, Dr. Miller. I have to see her face, he demanded from the scrub nurses, who parted like a river for him. There she was, his mother, the woman he had just saved in his OR. What's wrong, Dr. Miller? The intern interjected, confused. This is my mother, Sean responded quietly, although he wouldn't usually share such a personal detail with his subordinates. But the feelings coursing through his body were breathtaking. Anger, relief, shock, delight, and rage mixed into a potent combination that took away his ordinarily cool, aloof, and serious person as an attending surgeon. Just a month after Sean's father died 3 years ago, his mother disappeared suddenly. No one in the family knew where she went or if she was still alive. The police report led to nothing, and Sean even considered hiring a private investigator until he received a short email one day. His mother said she was fine, but not to look for her or do anything. However, she must have blocked him immediately after sending it because all his replies bounced back. Now, she was on his table, and he had just operated on her. As a doctor, he had done something that was frowned upon, operated on a family member. Take her to the ICU immediately and page Dr. Morgan again. I don't care where he is. If he's on call, he has to answer his pages. He barked at the intern and followed the hospital bed out of the OR. They really need to change the chairs in these rooms, Sean thought as he tried to accommodate again. He had changed his scrubs and sat by his mother's side since she was out of surgery. The chief had already spoken to him, and everything should be fine. Another doctor was now assigned to his mother. Now he was just her visitor, waiting for her to wake. Sean got up to get a cup of coffee, but noticed her fluttering eyes. Mom, he said tenderly. Mom. Huh? Linda replied groggily. What? Sean. Linda asked when her eyes focused and her mind cleared. Sean. His mouth got tight at the surprise in her voice. She shouldn't be shocked at seeing him. They were family. Still, he didn't want to show too much anger immediately. Hey, Mom, he muttered, smiling awkwardly. Oh, baby, she said, her mouth puckering and eyes watering. I missed you. Really? Sean said back. It didn't seem like it. Sean, please, you don't understand, Linda said as 2 tears rolled from her eyes. You're right. I don't, he shrugged, stepping away from her. He was trying not to be mean or to raise his voice, especially because she was just out of dangerous surgery. But it was difficult. Sean, there's a lot I need to say. She continued, watching pace around the room and getting agitated. Sure, it must have been eventful to disappear from my life after Dad died, Sean added sarcastically, but he couldn't hide his pained voice. It's been 3 years, Mom. Don't you think I, at least, deserve some kind of explanation, not some 2-sentence email? I'm a lesbian. Linda blurted and started coughing. The monitors began to beep, so Sean rushed over to quickly put the oxygen mask on her face. "Breathe, Mom. Breathe," he said, gentling his tone. The monitors stopped their alarms, although she was still breathing rapidly with wide eyes staring straight at Sean. Her hand came up and took the mask off. "Did you hear what I said? I like women, Sean." Sean looked to the window and ran a hand through his mouth, distracted. He looked back at his mother. "Are you telling me that you disappeared for a woman?" "No, I disappeared because I was confused," Linda replied, looking away. "My entire life was very different from how we raised you, how the world has changed. The expectations for me were a lot different, but still, I didn't know anything was wrong or off." Sean grabbed the chair and pulled it closer. "Continue, please. I love your father, but when he left, I faced this reality I had avoided all my life. Several men hit on me, and nothing but some women. Well, it was different. It was an awakening, like something in my body was off, and suddenly, it was on," she explained, her eyebrows moving with her words. "Mom, you're right. You and I were raised very differently." Sean grabbed her hand. "All the nurses who work in my operating rooms are lesbians. 2 of my interns are gay. A few others are non-binary and queer. This wouldn't have been a surprise to me. You could have told me. We would have worked on how to tell the family." "Oh, Mom," he whispered, finally grasping the reality of the situation. His mother shared how she had traveled to places Sean's father would never have gone. She had seen a therapist, attended church, engaged with people, and participated in rallies and parades, all in an effort to understand her new self. "After all that soul-searching, I was finally ready to reach out, but when I tried to call, you weren't home. So I started walking to the hospital when this intense pain hit me. I think I passed out because I don't remember anything after that," Linda concluded, gripping Sean's hand tightly. Sean shook his head, a mix of frustration and relief washing over him. He understood that she had needed that time away, just as many young people do when they're trying to discover who they are. "You should have called me," he gently scolded, though he quickly forgave her. "I wanted to see you," she replied. "I'm glad you're here," he said, finally losing his composure and letting tears fall. "So you have a girlfriend now?" Linda chuckled at his playful question, feeling the warmth of acceptance and love surrounding her.